Next one.
Next question. How do you define success and how has that definition changed over time?
I love this question.
Bob, hold this for me. Thank you.
So I would say definitely, as someone who has Saturn in Capricorn, I also have Uranus, Neptune in Capricorn. And these are all people like, if you have that placement like Uranus in Capricorn, there is this idea that we carry with us that may not be on a everyday or not they might admit to it on a, if you call them out on it kind of thing. But we have this idea that we came up when there was post like the booms, right? Our parents were the boomers, or they were like the younger Gen X's, and or I should say older Gen X's, I should say. But that we're supposed to work really hard in a traditional job, and that will help us to afford a house with 2 kids, a picket fence, and a dog by the time we're like 25. If you're not married and don't have kids by then like, what's going on with you, right? And we grew up with multiple financial crises. Like that was not going to be available to us in the same way. And what I find really fascinating is that as a generation, having both that Uranus and Neptune, which is like the dream, the delusion, but Uranus also being the innovation and the changes in technology and the like unpredictability. We're also the kids that grew up with the internet globifying the world with the, I mean, it was also the global, like the internet bubble, but like it still expanded our reach. Like the fact that we're even able to do things on social media, businesses, entire industries were created because of social media. But also think about the practical element of Capricorn, which is like taking things that already exist and like making it better. So like we have houses, but now we have hotels, but we have Airbnbs, we have Verbos, we have all these different things that like make things easier. We have taxis, but now we have a plethora of Lyft, Uber, all the things, right? We have so many things that are like we're already functioning. We had cassette players, but then we had like the iPads, right? Like we had, sorry, the iPod, and then we had like the iPads, and then we had so many, like the glasses now. Like there's so many things that have made normal things that were already available better, easier. And that's because of our generation that came up in that time to like strengthen and develop and be curious about how do we make things better, right? But also we have Neptune and Capricorn. So we are like, we want to work really hard to get this dream that was promised to us that has not really panned out for everybody, right? And it can feel like, and that's why there's so many 30-something-year-olds that they work these like traditional jobs, but then they go home and like they have rooms like they're like kids in the 90s because they could finally afford the things that they couldn't afford as kids, but they can't afford a thing like a house. And they can't afford like, an actual vacation. So they decompress by having all their gaming streaming setup. And like, I love the memes that are like kind of like telling you like, oh, that specialty coffee that you like, it still only adds up to like, $3,000 a year, and that still can't afford you a house. So buy your damn coffee. Like the shaming and the guilt that millennials have gotten over avocado toast.
I was just gonna say that. Just stop.
Infuriates me.
Just don't eat breakfast. Okay.
Like I literally, it infuriates. Yes, there's some expensive avocado toast, but everything's expensive. And two, like it's just the like that we would get like very Saturn, where it's like we get yelled at or we get like judged for things other people. Yeah, other avocado toast was probably available, but it's not as like socially popular. And so because it became popular with a different generation, that's like, well, it's not like I can afford XYZ luxury, so I'm going to give myself a nice brunch with my friends to decompress over our week of being, I don't know, like overnight nurses,
right,
or like teachers, while like we're like getting our school funding cut, that maybe I want to have a nice brunch and we get judged for it, like it's just infuriating because it's like we're set to a different standard, but also you're not realizing our circumstances are different. And so that means our generation, like I said, all the placements I've mentioned, struggle with this idea of like, wanting, and they do work hard. I'll give our generation that we are hard workers that want to be compensated for what we've put in,
Mhm.
right? But the systems have not been rigged in our favor because capitalism hurts everybody, and we are in late stage capitalism. So that also feels like it just goes hand in hand with when we have so many outer planets in a sign of Capricorn. We had Pluto in Capricorn in like the tail end, or I meant to say like the late, the 2008 to 2024, because it took forever. But like I almost forgot to mention that, like that, even though that wasn't the placement that was in our natal charts, we still had to experience that weather, that cosmic weather transit,
Mm.
which means like all the gunk of being in a capitalistic, you know, patriarchy, like very, there's a system to this, like climb up the system, but you realize that people are coming in at different levels and it's not all set up the same, that you start become disillusioned and you start to see the cracks and people stop being like, oh, why am I participating in this system that's not fair, right? And so I think it's really interesting that we started like 2008 is when Occupy Wall Street happened. That was the first like major thing that was like astrologically associated with Pluto in Capricorn.
Oh, really?
And that means that people that had Uranus, Neptune, Saturn, and then Saturn in Aquarius too, were all of college age, graduating or in college when that happened. And a lot of people,
That was like our era, right?
yeah,
2008, you said?
that
Yeah.
was that was my first year of college. And there was a
Really?
lot of people
Wow.
graduating around that time, right? Like the older millennials for
Oh,
me
2008. I was thinking, I graduated 2014. Okay, disregard.
from college.
From college 2014.
For
Yeah.
me, it was 2012
Yeah, that makes
college.
sense. Okay,
So
okay.
I was entering college, and
Right.
I there are millennials older than me, so they were either in the middle or finishing
Hmm.
and coming into a professional world that was not guaranteed. There was no jobs.
Hmm.
The post like 9/11 world too, like where it's like things just stopped being available or accessible, or like a very strong pause in industries while the city was recuperating, right? And you could argue just the city, but 9/11 had global impacts,
Hmm.
right? Especially around security, surveillance, all of that.
Yeah.
Very Pluto and Capricorn eras, right? Of like settling rules and creating structures that we all have to follow. And from an emotional perspective, I feel like, I know I've been rambling, but it's just because I feel so passionate about this. Like, we're a generation that wants to work hard and wants to see the benefits of that hard work. We do want to be in a company for 20 something years like our grandmas were and get a pension. A what? That those we don't even see those anymore. To get like get to be able to retire young, right? Like what is
Yeah.
that? You know? And I think that people have had to take risks to start their own businesses when they didn't want to because we wanted to work under someone and just stay there, or they've had to like bounce back and forth between different industries or different companies within the same industry just to get some kind of closer market value
Hmm.
instead of just staying and growing one place, because traditionally that worked. Now not so much. You have to argue, you have to like play ball a little bit, like with finances, with like, well, I'll leave if you won't meet me for like my fifth year of trying to ask for a raise.
But did it work, or do you think there just wasn't enough like worker rights, or like enough care, or enough, to be able to leave those situations? Because I'm like, I don't even know if it was working back then,
Yeah,
but
no, I mean, I don't
it
even think it
just
was work. It
was.
just was. And that is a very beautiful Saturn in Aquarius statement, I think.
Thank you.
Because obviously, I mean, I've been focusing on the outer planets being in Capricorn to start this, but also Uranus eventually was in Aquarius. Neptune was also in Aquarius. So like it's been a part of this, and now Pluto is in Aquarius. So you're onto something here. But I feel like the way we define success as a
Hmm.
generation was around getting our titles, being in, certain industries, or getting to the top of certain industries, of like being willing to be cutthroat
Right.
to get what we want or what we need, right? And that has not worked. And thankfully there are people within our generation that have also, and the younger generation, because the younger generation also has a lot of Aquarius in their charts, like has innovated and restructured and considered more of the collective, which I think, especially because now this, the fact that Pluto is in Aquarius, a lot of people with the strong outer planets, my like younger millennial burnout markers, will come into positions of interesting power in these next like 15 years, I think, because with the tail end of Pluto and Capricorn, I think there was a lot of transformation around the people that had strong Capricorn placements, realizing like, is this really how I want to live my life? Do I want to always work for someone else? Maybe I want to work for myself. Maybe I don't want to work for myself, but I have to work for myself to make this work. Or I can't wait for someone to give me the life that was promised to me by my grandparents. I have to just go after the life I want or can have right now, right? And I know my definition of success has changed because I now realize that like just getting a title or just making a certain amount of money, like a salary, is not success for me personally. If I don't feel like I'm living an emotionally authentic life out loud, it's not successful to me. And I've made more money on paper than some other years or in the years that I've worked for myself, but I've never had as a fulfilled life since I've committed to this life in the past 5 years.
I think we need to rebrand success to fulfillment.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, sometimes I will have a session with someone and it's just a run of the mill session, just, pull some cards or we looked at their astrology. And at the end, I will just feel so energized or so like buzzy, or I'm like, wow, I didn't realize I was going into this feeling a little low. And now I feel motivated by like what came out. And now I want to do this for me. Or maybe I need to like look at this area of my life that like we just focus on for so much for them that I've been neglecting myself.
Mhm.
And that feels amazing to me, like, and those are immediate gratification moments. Sometimes it's the fact that if I want to spend a month living in Colombia with my family, I can choose that and decide that, as opposed to having to submit for approval for vacation and then have to consider what things I have to say no to later in the year because I chose to put all my eggs in this basket. I decide that. That's success to me.